Hello, Java Challenger. I'm happy to have here Edson Yanaga. Hello, Edson. How are you?
Hi, Rafael. Hello, the folks from Java Challengers. Thank you so much for having me here, Rafael. As we were talking before, always a pleasure talking to you and with your other friends over here. So yeah, glad to be here.
Thank you so much. So, Edson Yanaga is a Java champion with more than 20 years of experience. He's a rock star from the biggest conference in South America, TDC, a developer conference. He gave talks all around the world in many top conferences, and he's also a Microsoft MVP, and he's currently working for Google for the Google Wallet product. So let's start then, Yanaga. Very happy to have you here. And I want to know, what is your career trajectory? Can you share with us how it started? What was your biggest struggles? Maybe some lessons to the Java Challengers audience. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, of course. I'll try to make a long story short, but just like a small correction, I'm a former Microsoft MVP.
Okay.
The day I joined Google, they stripped me out of the Microsoft MVP title because Google employees can't be Microsoft MVPs because they are competitors. So I was awarded with the MVP title for 7 years, but then the day I joined Google, they removed it from me. And I understand
Yes.
because as an MVP, one of the benefits of the program is that you have confidential information about product roadmaps and other stuff. And you don't want your competitor to know these things. So I totally understand the reason for doing that. But I think I've told this story a couple of times before, but I early in my career, I'll try to take the highlights. Like early in my career, I always thought that if I became a very good programmer, if I became like one of the best programmers in the world, success would automatically come. People would automatically recognize what I did, and I would be good. But then, very early in my career, I just realized that I was wrong. So I had my struggles. I'm someone who has been bankrupt already twice in my career. By coincidence, it happened when my two sons were born. So when my first son was born, I became bankrupt. When the second son was born, I became bankrupt again. And that's why I decided to not have child anymore. Of course, not because of them. It was completely my fault. And I love them, of course, but it was a coincidence. It happened. And and through those struggles, I think I learned some lessons because after the second time I became bankrupt, owing money to everyone, to the bank, in my company account, in my personal account, owing money to family, friends. Luckily, I was able to pay them off already. But after that, when it was really bad at the lowest point in my career, in my life, I decided that I wanted to do something different about it. So coding wasn't the only goal in my career, and I needed a purpose to keep going because clearly I didn't see a reason to keep doing what I was doing. That's when I decided that, well, I wanted to help other people to become better developers too. Still wanted to become as good as a developer as I can be, but I wanted to help other people to achieve that. And once I did that, I started trying to share content, writing, trying to go to some conferences and share some stuff. The first big opportunity that I had was back in 2012, I submitted a couple of talks to TDC, the largest developer conference in South America. Now it is, back then it wasn't. I remember in Florianopolis, I was accepted for the talks. I was going to decline that because I didn't have money to pay for the trip. And I live in the countryside of Brazil in a state called Paraná. And from there to Florianopolis is not such a big deal. Like it's not that far. Like the even a bus ticket wouldn't be that hard. But I didn't have money for the bus ticket. I didn't have money for the hotel or anything else. That's one of my friends When I told him that I was accepted, but I wasn't going because I didn't have the money, he told me that he was paying for my expenses. And I'm very thankful for him. He did it. And I think this one of the turning points of my career because I was unemployed at the time. And when I went to the conference, it was a great experience. I was able to give my talks. But more than that, I was able to talk to a lot of people. I was able to make important connections. And I don't know, 3, 4 months later, someone saw that at that time we weren't even recording talks, which is something very common these days. But somebody saw on the website, oh, you gave a talk about this subject, this particular conference, and you must know something about it. And they were facing an issue at their company about this particular technology with this particular issue. And they asked me, oh, would you like to give us some time and help us to solve this problem? And of course, well, I was desperate for some money, but they didn't need to know that. Of course, I had this engagement and then it was a good deal. Then some like a month later, another company reached out to me about something similar. It was great. And then I came back to the first company and they said, oh, we enjoy your work so much. Wouldn't you like to spend more hours with us? And I did. And after a couple more engagements, they decided to hire me. And that's when I became from unemployed to employed. The ship stopped sinking. And I decided, well, this talk, these connections that I had at these events, I think it were really worth it. And after working for some months, I decided that I think it's worth the investment. That's why I decided to try to go to other talks or even user groups, try to share whatever I could. And that's when the spiral, which was a downward spiral, became an upward spiral. So I went to more events, which was an investment of time and money. And then I just realized, well, whenever I do this, some months later, it comes back and it keeps growing. So then when I decided to do this all the time, and I decided I would spend all the money and time that I had available doing that. I was writing articles, blog posts, recording videos, delivering talks anywhere I could. That's when I realized that my career started to grow. And the more you meet people, the more connections you have, the more friends. Well, that's one of the in one of those opportunities I was able to meet you, Rafael, as you know, and the things kept going until some years later I was able to try to deliver a talk at an international conference. I had the pleasure of going to Java One in San Francisco. I traveled abroad for the first time in my life. I delivered a talk in English for the first time in my life. And by coincidence, like in the second time I went to Java One in San Francisco, when I traveled to Java One, I knew that I was going to become unemployed by January next year because the company that I was working for decided to terminate my contract. And when I traveled to Java One, which was like September, I was already looking for something. I was talking with people, trying to see if somebody had an opportunity. And by coincidence, while I was in San Francisco, my future manager called me and I was like asking me if I would be interested in a job, like working for Red Hat at the time. And of course, it was a dream job at the time. Later, I started some discussions with Microsoft in Brazil. And the thing that was super curious about this process is that when my future manager called me, it was for a US role, but it was still in Brazil. And I was curious about how did he learn about me? How did he even get my phone number, which was a temporary US number that I got just for 1 week? And he told me that there was this person that was working for Red Hat at the time, and they were having an informal discussion, and he said, "Oh, I have this. I'm going to open this new position, needing someone for this particular role. I need these skills." And this person said, "You should really be talking with Edson about this role because I think he's the best candidate for the job." And this person was my former student in Brazil. I was a university professor, and in he was one of my first students because in the first year that became a professor, he was in the first class of mine. And after that, well, he recommended me. We talked a lot of time. There were other candidates, of course, but I was really surprised when he decided to choose me, even though I was like nobody. Well, I still am, but even worse by then. I decided to choose me for this particular role. So that's when I was able to join Red Hat early in the next year. It's a long story too, but I don't want to take too much time. But I was able to be very happily working for Red Hat for 6 years. Wonderful, one of the best opportunities I had in my life. And after 6 years at Red Hat, Google reached out to me about a position. I got through the interview process. It took like almost 6 months. And in May 2022, I was able to join Google, and that's where I am today. So it was another transition in my career from professor, from to developer, to consultant, to developer advocate, to the manager of a global developer advocacy team at Red Hat, to doing developer advocacy at Google. And now I focus on DevOps and cloud technologies and Java my entire career. And now I'm working with a consumer product. So it has been an interesting change, a challenge again, but I'm happy doing what I'm doing. And that's where I am today. I don't know where I'm going. And it's funny, every time I have this career conversation, people sometimes ask you, what was your plan? How did you plan to go through this process? And I always say, I made plans a lot, and all of them failed miserably. That's why I don't do the plans anymore, because every time I do something, I fail and I just let the things go and see where it's going. So I don't know where I'm going, but I want to go as far as I can go. So that's the very not so short version of the story.
Thank you so much. I really like the details you gave. There are some lessons there. And one question I have, like you mentioned in the beginning of your career, that you gave a talk, and this talk opened doors for you. And I'm really curious to know what's the topic of this talk.
If I It was about Spring. I'm a Spring user since Spring 1.0 beta 2. And it's funny because what I was doing, I thought it was obvious, but I wanted to try to submit to the event. So I wrote some abstracts about some subjects, about problems that I faced in my day to day work that I thought would help someone. Even though I thought this is kind of obvious, of course, everyone knows what I know. Everybody would easily solve the problem, but I tried. And then I realized, well, maybe it's something that it's common for you. It's not common for other people because they face different scenarios. And maybe you got a solution. Maybe your solution is not even the best one, but people want to see what you made different. So it was something about Spring configuration.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe I can Google that to try to find what was it about. But it was something about Spring configuration. I was dealing with I want some very specific on the fly configuration depending on the environment. Well, I think it was it. Like I wanted different Spring configurations from different environments, like development in the work in your development machine, in the tests, and in production. And it was in those early days where you would be able to configure profiles with annotations and other stuff. So I think it was the subject of the talk. but I might be mistaken.
Amazing. And there is one thing very important. I think many developers go through that, which is the curse of knowledge. So sometimes we assume that other people know what we know, but that's not the case, right? So your talk was amazing and you got a job because of your talk, because you were talking about real world problems. I love that because most of the talks I see are theory concepts that you might never use in your life, but you gave real world problems, case scenarios. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned another stuff that I think it is important. Like, you don't know how much you know and how much you don't know if you don't talk to other people. Like, you live in your bubble, work bubble, personal bubble, and going to these conferences and engaging with other developers that did like similar jobs as mine helped me to realize that how much I did know and how much I didn't know. And I think it was like an eye-opening experience.
Yeah, yeah, that definitely helps a lot. Sometimes you are talking to someone and then this developer will open your eyes. They will say, hey, do you know this technology? You should know this technology, man. That happens. And that's an eye opener for sure. And that's the good thing about going to tech conferences because sometimes we are in our bubble and we have no idea that we lack so much knowledge, right? Or it might be the opposite. Something we know might be useful to others, very important to go to conferences. And the other lesson that was important, according to your story, is the connections we create during our career, right? So in your case, it was your former student who recommended you for the position in Red Hat. And that's amazing. That shows the importance of always being nice to other people, to other developers, and always giving value, doing the best work as possible, because then opportunities will come. Why wouldn't be like that? Your former student saw that you are a perfect candidate, and it happened.
Yeah, I also remember an occasion. I was I was working in a project when I was a consultant, and they decided to end my contract. And I was there until up to the last day, working hard, delivering. And one of the other developers of the team asked me, Yanaga, what are you doing here? And why are you working so hard to finish this stuff? Tomorrow, you won't even be working here anymore. And I remember that I told him, because I want to be missed, because I want people to realize that I did a great job. And when I leave, when they see what I did, they won't be able to say, yeah, he just did a lame job. He was leaving. And I wanted to be remembered though, oh, he did a great job until the end. Because I didn't have this approach my entire life. In some points in my early career, I decided to do not the best that I could because I wasn't being paid well enough, or it wasn't worth it, or I don't like what I'm doing. But then in some point, I just realized that I want to be missed. And that's what I was having like a career conversation with some coaches this year. And when they asked what was my career plan, I said, I don't have a plan, but I know that whatever I'm doing, the day I leave, because I know that nothing lasts forever, the day I leave, I want people to miss me. They said, oh, it was great when he was here. I wish he was still here. That's the memory I want to leave for people. And I think it worked out. I think it's still working for me.
Yeah, I think, that's beautiful, to have this commitment in your career, do your best, I think that's amazing. That's such an important lesson, right? You need to do your best. Like even, if the company is not good, until your last day, it's your commitment to be there and, do your best job, right? Because Doesn't really matter if you don't like the company. At least at your last day, even if you're leaving, do your best because you know that will count. And Yanaga is a proof that it pays off. There is always someone looking on what you are doing, right? It's important to not be a victim and, say, oh no, I will complain. I don't care about this job. And, just forget about everything. It's better, to, you know, do what Yanaga is doing and has been doing in his career to, always do his best because it's the best. It's the best you can do, not only for you, but for your career, right? And you always have to remember that if you don't like your job, you can find another one, right? But doesn't mean that you will do a bad job in your current company. So if you are in your current company, do your best, deliver the best you can, best quality code, you know, produce code at the best of your abilities, solve the company's problems at the best of your abilities. And that's a way to make the world better as well, right?
No, I agree. And doing the best you can is something that belongs to you. If your job is not fulfilling, if the environment's not the best one, possible one, if your management chain doesn't recognize you, I mean, that's their fault. It's not your fault. So don't make it your fault as well. I would always say that's something that I tell my kids too. If somebody treats you badly, like it's not your fault, it's their fault. How you treat them, even though they're treating you badly, that that belongs to you. So I think the same thing, like personal space and like professional space, like what you do belongs to you. So it doesn't care how they think, how they behave. You're doing the best because it's something coming from you. That's you want to be, how you want to be remembered for.
Exactly. That's a crucial lesson because, other people have their own lives and you don't know what they're going through. They might be having a very bad day. And, it doesn't mean that you will not defend yourself because sometimes, people will try to knock you down. You can defend yourself, but you don't need to, be unpolite and uh, you don't need to treat the other person badly just because the other person did that to you.
Yeah, sometimes you can be hard. Sometimes you can argue, but you can always be kind. Like I said, you
Yeah.
can always be polite. There are always two ways of dealing with the situation. I'm not saying it is easy. I'm just saying that it's something that and I'm not saying that we're always capable of doing it. I'm just saying that we should strive for it. We should try.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Another thing that, you did for a long time, and I'm curious to know about your teaching career and how was experience, what subjects you were teaching. Can you tell me more about that?
Yes, I became a professor by accident. I, to be honest, I only became a professor because I couldn't find a job as a developer. And again, something that happened by accident. But I think was super important for me because I was, I still am, super shy person. I had some communication issues. I had a hard time talking to other people. And to be honest, like my first years as a professor, and I say I'm sorry to all my students, I think it sucked because I wouldn't want to be in one of the classes that I gave. But after years of practice, I learned that it can be fun. Like it can be enjoyable. So I think I became like a much better teacher later. So I spent 15 years working either as a full time or as a part time professor. and it helped me a lot. It helped me to connect with other people. In the beginning, I thought that my students, if they don't go well, that's because they suck. And then I realized that if they're sucking, is because I'm not doing a good job. So it was my role to make them better. So it helped to change my perspective. It helped me to explain things better. I really learned that in the beginning, I was focused on teaching 100%. And if the students like understood like 10%, that was their problem. And then after talking to a lot of great people, I was able to talk to some very experienced professors, people I admire. And I've learned that when you're a professor, my job is not teaching. My job is to make people learn. So if I teach 50% of what I'm supposed to and understand 80% of that, I'm a much better teacher. So that's when I changed the focus from me to them. And then I became a better professor. I changed it from being the most hated one from the university to I became how do you say? When the students pay a homage to they choose like a professor to be the class patron. I don't know if that's the right term, but the students chose me. They saw this was their favorite professor, and yeah. And I used to
Yeah,
enjoy the time then later. I used to enjoy the time with my students. I used to go to the pub to have some beers with them every Friday. Went to barbecues with them. So I learned to enjoy the experience. And this experience helped me a lot later when I became a consultant, trying to explain, trying to solve the problems. And of course, it helped me a lot when I became a public speaker. So I was able to teach, or actually, I was able to help other people to understand what I was talking about. And it was funny because a lot of people throughout my entire career as a public speaker or as a developer advocate tell me that I have a professional style. And I'm just say, I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't want to do that, but I think it's something that I can't control. But I'm trying. I still have this approach. I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but I think it's helping me. Uh, uh, I know that I sound professor, and my concern is that I might sound like arrogant as someone who knows the thing, and actually, it's not. It's not because I know the things. I just want to help people, and the few things I know is because I've experienced. It doesn't mean it's the best approach. It means it worked for me. So if it helps you, I'm glad. If it doesn't help you, I'm sorry.
yeah. Well, I don't see you as arrogant at all. For me, you're one of the humblest persons I know. So,
Oh,
and
thanks.
I
You're too kind.
yeah, and I think this skill of teaching, of being a professor, I think it's excellent. Your communication skills are so sharp. You communicate so clearly. You can make the complicated, the complex simple. And that's not easy to do. Takes years to develop that. So, uh, and this is rare skill for developers because we struggle so much with our communication skills. It's rare. So definitely it's helping you, and it helps everyone to understand you more easily because if you don't know how to explain a concept in a simple way, people don't understand you, then there isn't a point of giving a talk or sharing your knowledge with people because if they don't understand you, there's no point, right? So I think that's a very powerful skill you have.
Yeah, and simplifying things is not something that I was born with. And actually, again, Early in my career because you don't know much, but you think you know a lot, and you want to show other people that you know a lot. You want to say complicated things. You want to complicate other stuff so people think that you know more than you do. And then after struggling and learning, I just honed the skill of simplifying stuff. When I realized that the goal was to make people understand instead of teaching. When I honed the skill of simplifying things by practice, and it took me a lot of time. And you do that by writing, by talking, and actually not talking to people because you don't realize. But if you record a video and you watch yourself, and it's still super painful for me to do. I hate watching myself. That's why when Rafael, if he publishes this video, I don't think I'll ever watch it because I just hate watching myself. I just do it when I really have to. And when you hear yourself, you just see, oh my God, like why do I talk like this? Oh, what I said doesn't make any sense. And the same things when you're writing. You write something, let it sit down for a day, you come back. I don't know why somebody would read what I wrote because I can't understand anything. And you just go and rewrite it until you can finally see something. Oh, now I can understand. So it's a painstaking process. It takes a lot of time, but eventually you get to it.
So your advice is to write down your ideas and try to explain a concept through articles or books, something like that. You think it's a good idea to practice the art of making the complex simple?
Oh yeah, writing. Writing is, I think, is the most important part. And I recommend if you don't have the opportunity to be recording videos for YouTube, or if you don't want to, we can do rubber ducking. Try to explain to your rubber duck and record it. Doesn't even have to be the video. Just record your voice and listen to it back again. So you can hear how you sound explaining something. And it's a process. I think writing it down is the most important part. Not all writing, like you have to reread it multiple times and rewrite it multiple times. But if you do it enough times throughout the years, your brain learns to adapt, learns how to shortcut the stuff. Oh, I'm writing this and it just feels wrong. And after you polish it, oh, it feels much better. I know how to write the polished version. So your brain knows how to short circuit the stuff, and you start writing the simpler version at first. So it's a process. You learn how to do that. It was like riding a bicycle. You didn't learn in the first day. Takes a good amount of time, but you get it. Your brain gets it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Another thing that you talked about, and I'm curious to know more, is that you mentioned that you wanted to be more fun as a professor. So, what exactly did you do to be more fun?
That's an interesting question. I've once I watched a talk about a famous speaker in Brazil, and I don't even remember what was the subject of the talk, but I remember this quote. There are only two types of talks. There are good talks and boring talks. Just to make sure you're not the boring one. That's when I realized that, well, I should be having fun when delivering a talk. And I'm not a funny person. I actually, personally, I'm a very boring person. But what you learn is that sometimes I would give a talk or even when teaching, I would say some things and people would start laughing about it. But it wasn't my goal. And then you realize that being fun at least for my case, because I'm not naturally fun, is a matter of rehearsing the things. You learn that it's the same sentence, same subject, same thing, same goal. Depending on how you say it, and how you say it is its tone, its tempo, its emphasis. So you're saying the same thing, which is that just did, like we're saying the same thing differently, makes your talk more engaging. And if you're lucky enough to practice enough, sometimes it can be even fun. Well, I just did it in the last 2 minutes. Just changing tone and pace, you make people paying attention to you. So it's not that just that monotonic talking that people nobody's talking about because you sound so boring and nobody will understand what you're saying. So it's changing tone and changing pace helps people understand. And if you, as I said, if you rehearse enough, you notice that there are some parts of your speech that can be fun, can sound like a joke. Because, and it doesn't need to make like to be actually a joke, can be a funny situation that you lived. People connect because they felt the same emotions. If they felt the same pain, the same joy, people connect with you and it automatically doesn't become boring. So
Would you,
I think that's a process. Yeah.
would you remember a story that you would connect with the audience?
Oh, it's very easy to connect that because I did a lot of DevOps, for example. And there are a lot. One story that always resonates whenever I gave a DevOps speech or something is like of the story of it works on my machine. So because everybody went through this, like you do some code, it works on my machine, but in production it doesn't. And actually, I can repeat how I learned that, and that's a story I used to tell. I delivered this keynote multiple times, and I always tell this story because it's real. I remember we were working on a healthcare insurance system, and we were of course we did the wrong thing. We decided to do a major version upgrade from version 2.0 to version 3.0 that was going to change the world. And of course, we did it during a weekend. And Monday morning, I went very early to the office, like it was 5:30 a.m. I was already at the office because we deployed into production. And my expectation was that, oh, our software is going to change the world. Today is the day that the world will recognize how great we are. And I'm just waiting for the phone to ring so people will start complimenting us. We're saying, oh, your software is amazing. And of course, that's not how it happened. Because it's a healthcare insurance system. Like 6 a.m., the laboratories in Brazil open, so people can start like doing lab work, drawing blood and other stuff. And of course, it started to fail. People were in line in the laboratories, in the hospitals, trying to draw blood to make the lab work, and nobody was being able to because the system wasn't working. So, and we're talking about 8,000 people. And all of these people were calling the call center to have manual authorizations because the system was working. So my phone started to call, to ring, but it wasn't for compliments. So until yeah, it was one of the hardest days in my life, professionally speaking. And I remember that was like 8 a.m. The president of the company, of the customer, called my phone. And he's starting to do name calling for me. He went through, I don't know, 5 minutes, just name calling and saying some of the nicest possible words that you can have until I said Silvio was his name. And I struggled to tell him that. I told him, Silvio, we're doing everything we can. But if I had to tell you something, I'd like to say it's working on my machine. And then Silvio just replied, Yanaga, F you. I'm not paying you to work on your machine. I'm paying you to make you work on my machine. And that's when I had this aha moment because I became like radio silent. And then he was like, yeah, are you there? And I was just like, yes, I'm here. And you're right. It's supposed to be working on your machine, but it isn't. So I'm going to hang up because I have to make it work. It took us the entire week to make it work properly. It was a terrible experience. Terrible, but it gave me this good story about it works on my machine. And I know that you have multiple stories like this one. I know all of the people from the Java channelers, they have stories like this one. They just need to know how to land this story in a speech. Because I'm pretty sure that if you tell such a story to an audience, they will remember you because
Amazing.
it connects their emotions with yours.
Yeah, story has such a tremendous power. Every time when you start telling story, people get engaged, they get interested. It's super interesting to know a story from your life. We are hardwired to stories, right? And even more if it's a story that we go through in our day-to-day lives. So
Indeed, indeed.
yeah, really amazing story. I like it. Even though like wasn't a good experience, obviously, but you overcame it and you learned a very important concept.
Yeah, it was a sad story. Today is a fun story.
Yes.
So, yeah, you can twist the things.
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about your journey to becoming a Java champion?
Java champion. Yeah, that's one of the things that I've never thought about achieving. And of course, there was a day in my life that I really wanted it. But after struggling with a lot of things in my life and my career, I thought it's something unachievable. I don't even want to pursue it because it's not going to happen. And I started doing the things that I was doing. I said, delivering talks, sharing content, helping other people just for the sake of it. Like, I didn't want to profit anything from it, but I started profiting from it, like landing a job, consultancy work, and everything else until in one day, it took some time. I think it was October 2014. I was awarded the title, which is one of the greatest achievements that I had in my career. I'm super thankful. It helped me a lot. It still helps, but becoming a Java champion again wasn't a plan. And when I planned for it, it didn't work. So it was more of it was a side effect of the work that I was already doing. So that's how I see it. So I can't give a recipe or a plan because I had given up about it a long time ago, but I was so grateful when it happened. So I think it makes sense that I worked a lot and the outcome was this title, this recognition, but it wasn't something that I was aiming for at the time.
Yeah, it's a huge honor. It's a huge honor. I remember the day I became a Java champion. For me it was unbelievable, totally unbelievable, and for me it was, oh my god, really? I'm a Java champion. I was Wow, it was one of the best days in my life, my career, for sure. I Such a tremendous honor. But it's interesting your mindset. I like your mindset because you mentioned that you planned things and didn't work out. But at the same time, you have such a strong ownership. Like your mindset is you follow the extreme ownership mindset. And You take responsibility for everything in your life. And, all the success you achieved in your career, like it's like you said, it's a consequence from your hard work, from, the strategy you applied in your career, your focus. Like it was a consequence from everyone who've been doing your career. So it's really amazing. So I know that most people say, oh, I need a plan, need to plan 10 years, 100 years, but sometimes it's not, right? If you do your work the best way and, with focus, it's enough to achieve an amazing level of success in your career.
Yeah, you said ownership, and I remember early in my life, I was a bit more passive. I said, yeah, things will happen because it will happen. But after struggling a lot, I said, after becoming bankrupt twice, and I already had my sons who were born already, and it's hard for me to say because I don't like telling the story, but some days, like we didn't even have anything to eat. So it was super painful for me. That's when I decided that I had to win because not for me, for them. And it's easier for you to own the stuff, own your shit. Easier for you to move forward when you don't have a choice. The only choice I had was to win. I think it made the process kind of easier because the only way for me is to go forward. I can't stay where I am. And it was a super painful experience, but I think it helped me to have focus because that's what I do is to today. I do what I do, and it doesn't matter what I do, I'm going to the end of it. I think not because now I'm used to it, but because I didn't have a choice. So it helped. Like, it means when you only have one color, when you only have one shirt to wear, that's an easy choice. You do what you have to do. So I think it helped to shape the person I am today. Like, you just have to go forward. You can achieve the same process without going through all the struggles. You can do that by choice. And that's the version I recommend. Okay. Not struggling.
Yeah, it's it's painful. Painful. The pain is one of the biggest motivations we have. I remember in the beginning of my career was painful as well because in the beginning I wasn't working in IT. I was working in telemarketing, right? It was a dead end job. And then I realized that if I stayed there longer, I would earn low salary. I would never achieve the things I wanted in life. And I had to take action. I really had to take ownership of my career. And I saw, okay, the only way I have here to change situation is to study IT and to get a job as a software engineer. And if I didn't make that decision that time, I don't know how would my life would be today. I don't know, right? Probably I would have nothing, right?
Mhm. And when you say owning, I think it's part of owning is that realizing that staying where you are is not an option. So I think it makes it easier for you to change things in your life.
Yeah, yeah. Because then you just, you are focused and you go for it.
Mhm.
Very good. And Yanaga, how do you see the future of Java now that we have AI, we have all those cloud technologies? How do you see Java in the future?
Java is going strong. Yeah. I think like for people like us that have been working with Java for quite some time, my point of view is that, well, not you, but for me, like older people, we have this nostalgia because in the early 2000s, Java was the AI thing of today. Java was the top of the mind technology in the world. And if you went through that period of time when Java was the top thing in the world, and you see today, you think that it's declining. And from this perspective, it is. But it doesn't mean that it's a small thing. Like, even the opposite. When Java was growing, it was a challenge to convince other people that you needed to adopt it. I would say that today it's the safe choice. And even when I was talking like last week, I was in last week, no, until well, this month. Today is Wednesday. This Monday, I was still in India, and there was an event there. I was talking to a lot of young developers. I was asking like career stuff and what I thought about if it was a good thing for them to learn Java, because there were some Java students. Some of their friends were mocking them because they were doing Java. The few of them were doing Java. And I was saying, don't mock them because they're going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because if you want to make money, choose Java.
Yeah.
If you want to do the cool stuff, you can choose other stuff.
Yeah.
But if you want to make money, choose Java because Java is directly related to the money making sectors of the economy.
Yeah.
Oh, banks, financial institutions, healthcare systems, and all those important things are connected to Java. So if you want the shiny stuff, you can do JavaScript, you can do Python, you can do Go, you can do Dart, and they're all like all very reasonable choices. You can be successful in any of them. I'm just saying that I think it the if you choose Java, you have a higher probability of making a good amount of money in your career. So that's how I see Java in the job market. And even have a dear friend of mine. We were discussing last year. Oh, like the Java, you can see the other languages, JavaScript, Python, they're growing. Students in universities, they don't want to learn Java anymore. They're choosing the other languages. And he was like, that's a good thing. It's more money for us. And I said, well, I can't disagree. Yeah, I can't disagree. So I see like Java is as strong as ever. Java now is the phase of being considered a consolidated technology. Nobody questions Java. Nobody gets fired for choosing Java. Java is the safe choice. That's what I say. Is it going slower? Yes, because once you innovated so much in the past 30 years, it's naturally for it to grow slower because it's stable. It solves almost everything. The huge amount of knowledge that is already behind Java, it's there, it works. Of course, the language is evolving, new features, but I'm talking it as a platform, as a technology, is a safe choice for your career. Like it's, as I said, you have a higher chance of making good money. That's it.
Definitely. And there are top companies behind Java as well. If you think about it, Oracle uses Java in their software. And you think the tech giant Oracle will allow Java to, get weak? No, they're going to invest a lot of money, right? Oracle, tech giants like Microsoft, Google, IBM, all of those companies are behind Java. They want Java to be successful because most of those companies want Java to be running in their cloud providers. And they know that Java is highly used in the world. It's a robust, reliable programming language. It's not verbose, right? It changed a lot with Project Ember, and it's improving more and more. It's getting cleaner, it's getting easier to code with Java.
Oh yeah, and when you look at the amount of investment, as I said, banks are deeply. banks, healthcare, financial institutions, they're neck deep into Java. And even the some or most of the top companies in the world, they are run on top of Java. And I'm not mentioning anything internal, but Google runs on Java, Amazon runs on Java, Netflix runs on Java, and you won't be saying they're not cool companies. So if yeah, I can't mention anything specifically, but a lot of the services that you use daily from Google, for example, are made in Java. And a few exceptions, C++ and other stuff, but Java is everywhere. So you think Java is dying? Yeah, maybe you're looking at the wrong place.
Definitely. Definitely. Because another detail is that the companies are releasing new Java versions every 6 months, right? And there's a lot of work being done for a Java programming language, which keeps Java a modern language and also makes Java a powerful programming language to build microservices as well.
Or anything these days. Yeah.
Yeah, many things, yes. So many things. Yeah, Naga, tell me how was the experience of working for Red Hat?
Yeah, I always admired Red Hat for first for Linux, and when they acquired JBoss or all the Java stuff that we're working, I was always like an open source advocate, user, fan. So joining Red Hat was a dream job. And even when I was about to be unemployed and was looking for something, I was looking at some offers from Oracle, Microsoft, and Red Hat. And to be honest, the Microsoft offer was higher. But then I told the Red Hat recruiter that I have this offer from Microsoft.
Yeah.
And I showed him the numbers. And the Red Hat recruiter told me I can't match it. But I told the recruiter, you don't have to match it. If you're within like 10% within the offer, I choose Red Hat because that's the place I want to work. That's the people I want to work with. He said, I give me 3 days. And then he came back. I did everything I could. I tried to match it. We can't. This is my best and final offer, or else you can sign with Microsoft. Can't do anything. And it was actually still lower than what I was expecting. But that's the job I wanted. So that's why I chose Red Hat. And I think it was one of the best decisions I ever had in my career because Red Hat was, and I believe still is, a wonderful place to work at. Some of the best friends, best colleagues I ever had are from there. What's different at Red Hat is that Red Hat's closer to. I don't know that no company should be a family because the goals are completely different,
Hmm.
but it almost felt like it. Like
Nice.
people were very friendly, always eager to help you, accessible levels. Like I had, yeah, was able to chat with the CEO, with the president, with the VPs. I remember one day I was in the Boston office, and my manager knew that I was there, and was like, he was chatting me. Oh, did you talk with X and Y already while you're in the office? I said, no, they are the VPs of this, VPs of that. I don't have anything to talk with them. He was like, you don't have to have anything to talk with them. You just go there and talk. I was, no, that's not how it works. No. And I said, you have to go. You just go to their office, just knock at the door and just say hi. So that's what I did. I just went there I knocked in one of the VP rooms and no secretary, no nothing. The door was open actually. I just knocked. I said, "Oh, do you have a minute?" He was like, "I'm just wrapping up something, but if you can come back like in 20 minutes, I'll be more than happy to talk with you." And that's what I did. I just came back. 20 minutes later, he knew my name. He knew what I did. We had a very good conversation for 30 minutes, like about, of course, company stuff, product stuff, technology stuff, personal stuff. It was a super pleasant conversation. That's People there are very accessible. So it was nice. I still have very good friends there, great memories. And whenever I go, I always still talk with them. I think in one of the first opportunities after I left Red Hat, I met some of those old colleagues, and I think they were afraid that, oh, you don't work here anymore. You're just going to ignore us. And I was there and was like, whoa, I think you're still my friends, aren't you? So we just talked, we had dinner, we had like beer and wine together. It was great to have. I have fond memories of Red Hat.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you accepted the offer. It was 10% of Microsoft's offer.
Yeah, less
That's
than that. They didn't reach the 10%. Yeah.
wow, that's
Yeah.
insane. That's how much you wanted to work for Red Hat. It's a considerable amount, right? Like 10% of the whole offer Microsoft gave you. It's a lot.
It was, but today I'm sure it was the right decision.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah, strategically, it was the best decision, and you worked with developers you wanted, and that's totally amazing. An amazing company for sure.
yeah, and I
And
think one of the things that helped me to choose Red Hat is that Burr, my previous manager at Red Hat, the person who hired me, I really wanted to work with him. With the conversations I had, I felt that it was somebody I could trust.
mhm,
And another advice that I can give is that choose your manager very wisely because he or she is the person that is going to decide your career. And he helped me to grow a lot. I
oh,
owe a lot to him. I think he was the best manager I ever had. If I ever have the opportunity to work with him again, I would surely do so because I think that all the years that I spent at Red Hat, I think everything went so well because I had the best manager.
that's so rare, right? Many managers, they don't really care about developers' careers. Most of them, when they do their one-on-ones, they talk about things that are not even that don't help much. And it's so good when you have a manager who really cares about your career because, then it's generates a synergy. Then you do your job better, you're motivated, your manager helps you, giving you the path, working with you so that, both will grow definitely. Like the more you grow, the more the manager will grow as well. Both will grow. Not necessarily like that, but you know, it's good. It's a win for sure. If a manager makes the people who are working for him grow in their careers, it makes the manager excellent. It's one of the best traits of a manager.
Mhm. Well, yeah, one of the things I learned from my previous manager when I became a manager, I realized that when you're an individual contributor, I wanted to become like a star, like to be the best person in the world doing my job. And I realized that when I became a manager, like I don't have the spotlight anymore because now my goal is to make the people in my team the best in the world in doing whatever they're doing. So your focus change. I try to do that. I don't know if I did a good job, but then you have to ask the people that work with me. I hope they have fond memories of me, but I can't guarantee.
Obviously, they do. Come on.
No, fingers crossed.
How's been the experience on working for Google on the Google Wallet project? Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, as I said, it's his first experience working with consumer products. And I joined Google the day that Google Wallet was launched. So it was
Nice.
very funny because the two most important conferences of the year for Red Hat and Google, they happened in the same days. So I was in Boston for Red Hat Summit on the Tuesday. I delivered my talks. 5 p.m. I left the event. I took a flight from Boston to San Francisco, landed there, I don't know, midnight, went to the hotel. In the morning, 9 a.m., I went to Shoreline for Google I/O as a Google employee. So two big events because my product was announced during the event at Google I/O that year. So I was helping to build this developer audience, this developer community from the ground. And we're still launching in all major markets worldwide, trying to convince people. Most people don't know what is Google Wallet, and a lot of people don't even know that there's a developer API. So that's my job. It has been a challenge because the product is new, people don't know about it. It's a consumer market, so it's not a fit for everyone too. But it has been interesting. And Google, it's a wonderful company to work with. I don't have any complaints. People are great, but it's a big company. Like it's 200,000 people.
Wow, it's a giant, tech giant.
It is. So I can say working at Google was, of course, was a dream, career dream. It is absolutely great. People are awesome. But if I have to be honest, no place will feel like family like Red Hat was. That's something I miss. Like people at Google, they are absolutely great, but they are your work colleagues. At Red Hat, it felt more like family. People were very close.
That's amazing. That makes such a difference. Like to work in an environment where people are close, people like to talk to each other, you know, you can share knowledge, you can learn from others. That's definitely amazing. Obviously, there's always a balance, right? There's no perfect company. One company will have their good things and their bad things, the other, and you have to put everything in a balance and say, hey, okay, there's those pros and cons. Okay, finalize the pros. Okay, better stay here. But you never know what might happen in the future. Red Hat or IBM, they might uh, come to you with an amazing offer again, and you might go back. We never know what might happen in our careers. Like
Mhm.
the more we grow, the more connections we have, we might have better and better offers.
No, for sure. Yeah. Like it's important to have this to be missed, to have this connection. So I would gladly work with any of my previous colleagues, would gladly work with folks from Red Hat at Red Hat, or I would gladly work with any other team, Google too. And this Google culture is great. It's just that it's so big that it's hard to keep this small company feeling like Red Hat. Not that Red Hat is small. It's just is this has this countryside south of the US feeling. Like people are just feels more like family. It's a feeling. It's not a
Yeah,
can't describe. Yeah, people if you're watching us, you know what it feels like. Yeah.
yeah. And the other thing I forgot to ask you is how you became a Microsoft MVP.
Oh, that's a good one. Which was completely this Java Champion, something that I was always hopeful for, but MVP is not something that I even was on my radar. because if it doesn't make any sense to me. But the world started changing. So when Microsoft made this transition or started making this transition to the cloud back in 2014, I was invited to a Microsoft event in San Francisco, Microsoft Build, and I didn't even know what was it about. But well, they invited me. They were paying for the flight, paying for the hotel. Why
Why
not?
not? Why not?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Free trip. And I went to the event, and I was invited because at that time, at the event, Microsoft announced the support for Java on Azure. And I talked to the product managers, to the software engineers, and I had great discussions with them. They asked me and an offer to evaluate the platform for them. They asked my opinion. I told them it sucks. Honestly, it is really bad, but it's great to see that you're willing to work on it. So I made a huge report of all the things that I thought they were bad
Nice.
at it and how they could improve. And we're super happy to see that 6 months later, almost everything that I asked were implemented
Wow.
in the platform. They say, "Oh, you really want to make this thing work." And that's it. And because I did this everything for free, I think one of the ways for them to thank me, they hired me to record some videos about the platform. So I got paid. I got paid for the videos that were recorded. And then some, I think a good 6 months or 1 year later, one of the Microsoft employees that I worked with, they recommended my name to the MV program. And then I got a surprise email saying that I was awarded. Oh, you were awarded. Okay. I wasn't even expecting it. Like, I don't exactly even know exactly what it means, but let's take a look. So I was one of the very first like open source MVPs awarded by the Microsoft MVP program. And Java Champion is a lifetime title. Microsoft MVP is something that you have to renew every year. So I kept doing contributions first by myself. After I joined Red Hat, one thing that helped me was the Microsoft and Red Hat partnership. So we did a lot of things together. And of course, it helped me to renew the MVP title every year until the day I joined Google. So that's how it happened. Again, nothing that I had planned. All the work that I did there, well, Microsoft invited me for the event. I thought it was a nice way to say thank you. So I wrote a generous report about the platform. They read it. They did the work. They thanked me again, like by hiring me to do some training videos. And yeah, it was a cycle. It's if you help other people, sometimes it comes back. It's not a transactional process,
It's
but
not.
sometimes it happens. Sometimes it's come back. Sometimes if you reach out to the right people, sometimes it becomes a cycle. So I did the report as a way to say thank you. I wasn't expecting anything else, but it came. And then, yeah, I guess I kept helping them and they helped me as well. And it was something mutual. So as I said, you can expect these things to be transactional, but helping people, I don't think it hurts in any moment. It can only helping other people, I think can only help you.
Yeah. And I think it's fantastic that all of your recommendations were implemented in Azure. And I think this is fundamental not only for Azure to be stronger, but for Java as well. That's a huge contribution for Java because we want Java in as many cloud providers as possible because that helps maintaining Java strong in the market. So that was a huge contribution. In the beginning, you saw lots of defects, lots of things that were wrong. You as a Java developer and as an experienced Java developer, you could see things they couldn't. So it was a great move from Microsoft to inviting you to this event. And it was an even better move from you to really helping them, creating a detailed report. That's such an honor, right? It's amazing. It's such a big contribution to Microsoft and to Java.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, well, I think it's looking at the time after that, I think Microsoft hired some great people to work on Java. And I think for us as Java developers, I think we're well covered. I think it's awesome to see that all the three major cloud computing platforms, they have their own version of the JVM. They all have their own distributions of OpenJDK. You have the Microsoft OpenJDK built for Java. You have Amazon's Corrado. You have Google's OpenJDK distribution as well. You have Oracle's. You have the official or unofficial OpenJDK distribution. It's everywhere. And the fact that all of these big companies are putting money and supporting it means a lot. Yeah, as I said, I think we're in good shape. Right? It's a great time to be a Java developer.
Definitely, yeah. Java will stay strong for a long time. Definitely. All of those big companies behind the scenes to keep Java strong. It's just all of those big financial companies, like it's just a safe choice for developers to go. Definitely.
Yeah, I'd
And
say that even if you're starting your career today, you can be safe that if you choose Java, you'll be able to retire using Java.
definitely, yeah, all of those companies will keep investing in Java. It's a robust, reliable programming language. So definitely, even if you are starting, go for Java. Definitely. And so another question I have a lot from the Java Challengers audience is how to stay up to date with technologies. So what would be your advice to help Java developers stay up to date with technologies?
Well, technology in general, I would say that learn the fundamentals, learn how things work, learn the basic concepts behind the things that you're using every day. Because one of the things that I've noticed in the past 30 years is that technologies, products, tools, libraries, they come and go, but the fundamentals behind everything, they don't change. And whenever I'm evaluating a new technology or tool, library, platform, anything, I just look at the type of problem that what is the problem that it solves? Like, how does it solve it? Once you understand that, I just say, yeah, I know how the tool works because there's only one or two ways for them to solving the problem the way it solves. So even when I'm using the tool and I know what features to expect, oh, they should be doing this and that. It should be called like something like this and that because I know how it works behind the scenes. I didn't implement it, I never used it, but I know the domain problem, I know the solution problem, so I can use the tool. Just give me a couple of days and I can use the tools. So I think it helped me to stay up to date, learn and the fundamentals for it's I think it's a good technology advice to stay up to date. And if
Totally
you're
agree.
thinking about yeah, and just for the day-to-day stuff, if you want to learn about the latest features of Java or cloud computing, yeah, you just read follow the right people on social media, follow the right newsletters. You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where do you have to go when the necessity arrives for you to learn deeply something.
Yeah. So you mentioned about fundamentals, and I totally agree that we need to master fundamentals. But what fundamentals would you suggest for Java developers to learn?
Think, well, depends on what is your daily job, like software architecture, never enough, like design practices, design patterns, architectural patterns, they're very good things that you need to learn. Database systems, not just learning SQL, how do they work? How do SQL query parser works? Helps a lot for you to solve a lot of problems. It helped me. I was a professor of computer networks and distributed systems. So when microservices came, I was saying, oh shit, I thought that I would never use this stuff in real life, yet here we are. Yeah, it helped me a lot to understand how this thing worked, like all the protocols. Yeah, what people talk about X, Y, and Z. Yeah, I know how this works. Yeah. You just tell me, oh, what does I don't know Zookeeper does, or what does Service Mesh does, or how the uh, X does. Yeah, I know this stuff. I know because I've read all the books. I've taught this subject in college, so he helped me a lot in my career. I might dare to say that it was something that made a big difference in my career for me to stay above the crowd. Because when a new technology, a new wave came, even though I have never used the technology and have never applied that, I already knew how it worked. So that's why I'm saying learn the fundamental, the theoretical concepts behind the technology. Uh, it worked for me. I don't know if it will work for you, but I think it helped me a lot.
It makes sense because if you think Java, we use object oriented programming, we use functional programming concepts, we use algorithms, data structures. If you know all of those concepts behind the scenes, learning Java will be much easier. And that's the same thing to learning other programming languages. Obviously, if you go to C or or C++, you're gonna have to manipulate pointers. That's another paradigm. But if you master those concepts behind the scenes, mastering, for example, another programming language with pointers will be much easier. So, and we have to remember that programming languages are tools, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah, even when something like Java, the Java Lambda expressions and streams came to the language in Java 8, I remember that it was easy to get because I studied functional programming when I was in college 20 years before. And of course, I didn't remember, but by looking at that, oh, I've seen this stuff before. I know how it works. And then you just read the name of the methods. Oh yeah, I know how to use it. It's you don't need to have deep knowledge of the stuff, but you need to have been exposed to the concepts. So it's not something alien to you. And then I said, if you have the basic knowledge, if you know the concepts behind it, you just like try to use it. You just play with that, uh, and you quickly get it.
and then new tools just become new tools because you know that those new tools, they are simply implementing the fundamentals, right?
Yeah, yeah. And when you're searching for tools, it helps you to find the tools too. Because oh, I have this problem. I need a tool that does that and solves this problem with this. so much easier for you to solve your problem rather than, oh my God, I don't even know what to search for. So it helps too.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts about algorithms, data structures, system design?
I, again, that's stuff that I studied in the past. I even taught some classes about it, which, I mean, if you want to join companies like big tech, like Google, Facebook, you have to know this by heart. And
Yeah.
one of the funny things about my hiring process at Google is that when the recruiter would reach out to me, it was like, "Oh, there's a position. We wanted to talk with you." I say, "Okay, I wanted to talk. I'm interested." And the recruiter were like, "Okay, can we schedule an interview for tomorrow?" It was like, "I've heard that the Google interviews are code interviews and that the problems are really hard. I think I need some time to study for that because I'm not prepared." And the recruiter was like, "Oh, it's a code interview, but it's going to be easy for you. You don't have to worry. These are easy coding exercises for you. And I'm going to schedule for tomorrow." And I arrived at the meeting. I was expecting some chat. And the guy just, "Oh, yeah, let's open this ID." And he describes me a problem. And now you need to solve it. And it was like, I have no idea how to solve this shit. It was like one of the hardest problems I've ever seen, like in 20 years. But I read the rules of the interview. And one of the goals is that you don't have to solve the problem. You just have to convince the interviewer that you can solve the problem, that you would be able to solve the problem if you had more time.
Mm.
So that's when I tried to, well, I just need to burn another 40 minutes because I won't be able to solve it. I start to just, oh yeah, we need to look at the problem. Just kept reading the problem and say, oh, we need this data structure. And I created in the code. And then we need this other data structure, classes in Java. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could choose any language. And oh, you need this other one. And now we need a map. And now we're going to create a graph. And now to be able
My
to
God.
solve, we're going to we need to traverse the graph by doing this. And every time we visit a node, we will have to compute this and do that. And it was like I was 20 minutes into the interview, then it was like, wait a minute, I know how to solve the shit. I say, okay. Then I'll stop talking briefly, and you just start coding, and I solved it. And I was only able to do that because I studied these things 20 years ago.
Oh.
And after this time, now I realize why the recruiter told me that, oh, it's going to be easy for you because he saw my LinkedIn profile. He saw that I was a university professor and he assumed that I would know all of that stuff, which might have been true, but last time I saw this thing was like 20 years before. And so when I passed the first interview, he called me and said, oh, let's schedule the next one. And I told him, I need 2 weeks because you told me it was going to be easy. It wasn't. I need 2 weeks to be able to study for the next one so I can be prepared. So I was able to study. I got prepared. Then for the following interviews, I was able to solve the problems without issues. But this 2 weeks was just for me to be able to remember the concept. I don't had to relearn all of them.
Mm.
But if you want to go through all these code interviews, if you never studied these data structures, algorithms, system design, you need to spend a good amount of time studying that because it's hard. Yeah,
It's
data structures, algorithms, all the not only algorithms, all the optimizations involved. You need to analyze complexity. Yeah, because in all the interviews, solve the problem. And yeah, but this one is complexity, I don't know, n square. And then, oh, you need to make it faster. And then you need to know how to apply the optimization techniques for that. And it was hard. I think I was able to solve all the problems, but I had a bit of luck. Yeah, I won't deny it. Yeah, I had a
Mhm.
bunch of luck too.
Awesome. So, yeah, that's the power of studying the fundamentals. Like you said, if you didn't study those fundamentals 20 years ago, it would have been possible to pass in the interview. Like you would have to spend a reasonable amount of time. Like you wouldn't be able to study in 2 weeks.
Oh no, I see a lot of people, yeah, studying like lead code and other websites, reading books. Most people would spend like 6 months, 1 year preparing. And I think I would recommend to do that. If I were to go through everything again, I would be studying for 6 months, 1 year.
Yeah, at the very least 6 months. And like, I think, like, how many hours would you recommend developers to study? Considering that they never saw like graphs in their college, they never saw hills and stack. They don't know much about the fundamentals. They just know some basic searching algorithms, but nothing beyond that.
It's hard because it's not about just studying, it's about deliberate practice. You need to practice those concepts. If you never study that, it's hard for me to have an estimate, but I would be preparing myself for 1 year.
When
Every day I would be spending 1 or 2 hours. Yeah, but it's just an estimate, of course. Your mileage may vary. You might take 3 months, 6 months, but I think 1 year is, yeah. And it also depends on which level are you aiming for, because
yeah,
the more senior you get, the harder the problems get. So it's a matter of aligning your expectations to. If you want a level 3 or level 4 position, is one level expectation. If you want a senior or a staff position, you need to know deeply all that stuff. Yeah, maybe 1 year is not even enough. Depends on your expectations.
yeah, yeah. Definitely, it's a lot of work, but it's worth it because once you get a job in a big tech, you are in a very good position.
I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah. And what books would you recommend for Java developers?
Java developers, I love talking about design patterns. I know some of them are outdated. There are better ways to solve the problem. I think it's good for you to know, even if you know that they're not used anymore. You know why they are not used anymore. So, Effective Java, my favorite number one book. Not a beginner book, but if you want to be a good Java developer, it's a must read it multiple times. I read the 3 editions of it multiple times. I think it's a must have. I like Refactoring from Martin Fowler, especially the last edition. Great book. I enjoy, what else? There is an underestimated book, I think, Refactoring to Patterns by Joshua Kirievsky. Great book. Helped me a lot. I used to recommend Clean Code a lot. I think you should read it. I These days I disagree with almost half of it. But
Wow.
again, you should read it and have your own conclusions. I think it's a good read. Just don't blindly apply it.
I'm very curious now why you said that you don't agree with 50% of the book.
Uh, let's see. It's a big list. I think
Is there a way to highlight the most important ones?
No, the good parts. I think you should make your methods as small as possible. You should
Yeah,
make your interfaces as small as possible. You should reduce the number of parameters in your methods as much as possible. Well, but these advices you don't get only from clean code.
yeah.
Like some of the things I disagree, for example, you think like the author even says that sometimes the ideal number of parameters is 0,
Wow.
which is a bad recommendation because if it's 0, then you only have internal state to work with.
Yes, don't like that.
Yeah, it's impossible to test without testing side effects. So some of the code samples also, it was confusing the first time I read. Now I think they don't make sense. This kind of things, like even the solid principles, Liskov principle, important. You very rarely use it in practice.
It's true.
So yeah, it could be a long list. Could take the full
Wow.
day, but I think people should read it. But don't blindly apply. Actually, it's true for any book. Read it. Just use your best judgment to learn if it's a good advice for you at that moment or not. And one that I didn't read yet, but it's on my list, Tidy First by Kent Beck. I saw some good reviews from it. I think it's a good advice. And what else? Domain driven design. I'm a fan of domain driven design. I don't know if it's for everybody. It helped me to do better coding, and the list could go on and on. You can see the books in my bookshelf here behind. Most of them are about Java. But to be honest, in the past few years, I've been reading a lot more about other subjects rather than just Java. But if you're interested in Java, I think the books I mentioned are a very good starting point.
Amazing. And regarding your opinion about the Clean Code book, this is definitely a talk.
It could
Definitely
be.
a
Yeah.
talk.
Well, I'm not. It's not. My opinion is not that different because I've seen some videos and even some blog posts from other developers that disagree with some of the stuff. And I would say that I agree with most of them. I don't think the book is bad. I just don't think the book is as great as I thought it was some years ago.
Yeah,
After reading it again, I said, yeah, maybe it didn't age that well.
interesting. Yeah, like for software, it's so difficult to make a content age well because software evolves so quickly.
Mhm.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Yanaga, for your presence. So happy to have you here. You gave amazing insights. I learned a lot talking with you, and well, was really good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a very nice conversation. It was awesome to be here with you, Rafael. It was awesome to, well, try to help other Java challengers over there. Thank you for the opportunity and always happy to talk whenever you want.
Yeah, I didn't ask you before, but feel free to promote anything like a book, whatever you want.
Yeah, if would really, well, it's part of my job. So if you want to learn more about digital wallets, a lot of things are happening. Digital wallets are much more than just credit cards and payment these days. You can store anything from boarding passes, event tickets, loyalty cards. You can generate much more engagement with your users. And very soon, you'll be able to have digital IDs in your wallet, like passports, driver's license. You'll be able to verify your credentials through your phone, through your browser, if you store your credentials on digital wallets such as Google Wallet, and well, car keys, hotel keys, and all of these features, they have a developer API. So if you want to learn more how you can integrate your product with digital wallets such as Google Wallet, please visit developers.google.com/wallet.
Amazing. I'm gonna post the link here. And you talked about car keys. Like Google
Car
Wallet, can I use
keys,
my car keys on my Google Wallet?
yes, for some brands, I know that for if you have a recent BMW, you can add your car key to Google Wallet, so you don't have to carry the keys, just your mobile phone. And you can unlock the car, you can start the car. I know that Hyundai, I believe, also has support for it. And I'm not very familiar with the total list of brands, but the number of brands that are supporting car keys on digital wallets, because it's an international standard, it is increasing. I know that BMW was the first one. That's why it's the first one I mentioned. But we have an increasing list of partners that support it.
Amazing. So you can pay for stuff, you can use your car keys. So it's like a real wallet, but it's digital.
It is. In last week, it was also had an amazing use case because I arrived at the airport very late, and we arrived at the hotel. It was like almost midnight. And but the problem is that because I checked it in online in the app, and I knew that my room, the hotel that had three buildings, and my room was in the third building, the last one, and the parking was available in the back of the last building too. So if I had to go to a regular hotel, I would need to check in the front desk. I would have to park the car, check in the front desk, go back to my car. Either I could walk with the bags until the third building. I would need to get the car, drive around the block, and park in the third building. So then I could get into the room. But because this hotel had implemented digital hotel keys, in digital wallets, I was able to check in the app. I received the hotel key automatically on my phone.
Oh, amazing.
I went straight to the back of the third building. The back door was closed. I tapped my phone. It opened. I just walked a couple meters to my room. I tapped the room and it opened for me. So it was a seamless process. Just amazing. That's how user experience should be. And that's something that you can do today with Google Wallet.
My God, that's amazing. I really want this product to grow and to be more practical because sometimes it's so annoying. Like when I go to a hotel, have to get the card. Sometimes I lose the card, and if you have your phone, it's much more difficult to lose your phone, and it's so annoying to you arrive tired in the hotel and you just want to go sleep, and then you have to get the cards, takes longer, you have to fill out a huge form. If you get your key in your phone, so much easier. That's amazing. I really like to have everything centralized, you know, your car keys, your hotel keys, your money, you get everything there, and that's it. That's amazing.
Oh, and it works even if you're out of battery. Like
Oh my
most mobile
God.
phones, the NFC chip, it works for some hours, 3 to 6 hours, even when after your phone went down out of battery.
Wow. That's amazing. That's so impressive. I have no idea how they do that, but that's really good. Wow. Yanaga, thank you so much. And I'm going to leave the link here from Google Wallet. And please, Java Challenger, check it out because as you saw, it's an amazing product, totally worth checking out. And I'm pretty sure that's going to take the world by storm. That's it. Thank you so much, Yanaga, again.
Thank you, Rafael. It was great talking with you.
Pleasure talking to you.